I am an environmental scientist, and as an environmental scientist, I take notice of pollution that might be in our air. And for years, I have noticed that there has been a lot of white pollution coming out of jets flying at high altitudes. And these contrails, as people will call them, are laid out across the sky, and they do not dissipate. If they were moisture, they would tend to a state of equilibrium and just melt into the air, evaporate. But no, these things turn into cirrus clouds. And when I lived in Los Angeles, this was a common occurrence. I would see them all the time, and I would look up and I'm going, I'm breathing that shit. I don't like it. And I have lots of photographs of them. Even I hiked through the French, Swiss, and Italian Alps, and even there, I looked up in the sky and there was like a picket fence of chemical trails from jets across the sky, creating a milky white blanket, like cotton candy almost. Well, I talk about this to my father, who's an engineer, and has to listen to all my theories on the world, and he reads a lot. So, and me being a historian, it's also wonderful that he found this. It's from the United States Naval Institute, January 1968. Proceedings. And in this is there's an article by a man who's a meteorologist. This guy right here, Captain Koch. Nice fellow, it seems, and he had some interesting things to say about the environment and the weather, in particular, weather modification. And that seems to be the byword today. You got Hurricane Katrina, you have the icebergs melting, you have full shelves of ice floating off Greenland, and we're very worried about the changing weather patterns. The world getting warmer, who knows? But we're having more droughts, and we're having more floods, and those things aren't good. We want nice, consistent weather. And then this starts off the Captain Koch in 1968. Get that? Today, mankind is marching slowly but steadily toward the threshold of a simultaneously wondrous and appalling era. An era of weather and climate control. Wondrous because of all the advantages that we could gain by controlling the weather for our crops, let's say, but also appalling because weather could be used as a weapon of war against whole populations, which is against the Geneva Conventions. It is a war crime. Never happened, right? North Korea has lousy weather just for the heck of it. Well, the way it's done is it's called cloud seeding. And you take a jet or a plane and you seed it with silver iodide or carbon black, let's say. And that will affect the cloud. The moisture will glom onto it, and then it will get heavy enough and it will fall to the ground, creating maybe rain, maybe snow, or it'll make the air and underneath it cooler. The Soviets have been experimenting with sound waves. We have our own little research project called the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project up in Alaska. They call it HAARP for short. Angels don't play this HAARP. It basically is a high energy antenna array that can shoot a large amount of energy into the lower ionosphere and punch a hole in it and push it out. And when you push out the atmosphere into space, everything fills in around it, and you can really change the weather and probably do a couple other things with it too. But back in 1968, the boldest and most far-reaching single weather control project being conducted was Project Storm Fury. Whereas they were experimenting precisely how hurricanes might be steered or modified in 1968. Steered or modified. Maybe they could have steered Katrina away. Or maybe they steered it toward New Orleans. George Bush, Dick Cheney, I don't know. And here the most revealing thing that pertains to our present situation of these, and even in the Bay Area where I live, it's even noticeable. You know, I've noticed these things on New Year's Day being put out across the sky. On Earth Day, on freaking Earth Day, there's pollution coming out of these jets. A lot of it. And it's creating what they call global dimming. It's a real phenomena. As well as global warming, there's global dimming. Here he says, scientists from several countries have suggested melting a part of the ice cap by dusting it with carbon black. Great idea. Let's melt the ice cap so we can have some shipping lanes. And U.S. scientists are now considering the technique of generating dust clouds in space to form sunshades, quote unquote, and or creating broad bands of high altitude ice crystal cirrus clouds that would permit the ground beneath to cool in certain areas. I don't know. U.S. Navy? Do they have projects going on in Alaska? The High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project? Do they have planes crisscrossing across our sky, creating cirrus clouds? Or seeding clouds? I don't know. But the proof is right above us, though we have no explanations. And I would like some. You know, the greatest covert operations in history, the ones done in plain sight.